So my name is Izzy, and this semester I worked alongside Dr. Scala, like she said, to focus on improving poll worker training through the study and analysis of their individual security behaviors. This is my table of contents, pretty basic, looks like everyone else's this evening. My research was previously based on data that was already collected. So like Natalie said, I have been working on this project for almost a year, but I did a different portion of the data for this capstone project. So the CBIS survey that Yabsira just explained was sent out to Anne Arundel County poll workers. And something that's important to note when you see how
Hey,
much.
I'm sorry, Izzy, your slides cut out. Is that what there you go. You're back now. Thank you.
Okay. Oh,
Thank you. So I
yes.
see your introduction slide.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So something that is important to note is the slides went out, or the CBIS survey went out in October. And as you know, the election is in November. So there wasn't a lot of time for us to collect this data. So the CBIS survey did go out, and then training was previously designed by a former supply chain student, Lorraine Black, and other students that was sent out after they completed the CBIS survey. And then there was quizzes based on training knowledge. So that was the poll book survey, the scanning unit, the provisional unit as well. And so only after completing these training modules could the poll workers take the quizzes, which were based on the training knowledge. So there were about 20 poll workers who completed all three quizzes and the CBIS survey. In order to analyze the data deeply, analysis was ran on the data set, including the poll workers who took all three quizzes. And then I also ran data on poll workers who just took one of the quizzes and the other and the CBIS survey. So just to look at those numbers so you understand the data a little
Izzy,
bit further. Yes.
Izzy, there you go. Like I think you're clicking on and off. So we see problem motivation now when right before I interrupted you.
Okay.
So they keep going to like a gray screen. So if you could just maybe even leave it on that, please,
Yeah.
and stay out of the screen share, that would help.
Okay. Wait, can you see just my Microsoft now?
Yes.
Okay. So, like I said, just to look at the numbers for the data later, there was 124 poll workers who took the scanning unit and the CBIS survey. 24 poll workers took the provisional quiz and the CBIS survey, and then 82 poll workers took the poll books quiz and the CBIS survey. So this is important to understand just because I did run multiple regressions, multiple histograms on different types of the data set. And the motivation behind my capstone is to understand how poll workers' personal cybersecurity intentions impact their knowledge from Anne Arundel poll worker training. All right, so my problem statement was, how can poll workers' training and ability mitigate cyber, physical, and insider threats be related utilizing their scores on a security behaviors and intentions survey? This problem statement allowed me to focus on the current state of poll workers' training and ability to mitigate threats based on their CBIS score, and then analyze how to connect and improve a desired future state. So I was able to look at what was going on and focus on the future of other elections, because we know there are going to be plenty of elections in the future. I focused on two literature pieces. Yabsir kind of went through the one on the left, so I won't go through the CBIS questions too much. But those are the questions, the four categories that he went through. And from the second paper, I followed the survey organization that was analyzed in this paper. So because of this paper, our survey included questions related to demographics and motivation. And the second paper also modeled running t-tests on motivational components. And then I modeled that by running t-tests on the CBIS security categories, which were the device securement, updating, password generation, and proactive awareness. So let's get into the data. I first ran histograms on all three quizzes. As you can see, the scanning histogram is a bell curve, pretty traditional. The provisional quiz histogram shows that poll workers scored relatively high on this quiz. I saw that across all poll workers, that they did score pretty high on this. And then the poll books histogram is undefined and shows there are some outliers on both sides of the scale. After the histograms, I ran some regressions. The regressions were ran for all three of the quizzes, and the only significant one was the poll books regression. So as you can see, the significant F is on the screen. And back to those categories and variables that Yabsira was talking about earlier, this regression showed that device securement, proactive awareness, and password generation had a relationship with when poll workers took the poll books quiz score. So those are their p-values on the screen. Then I went into more data and ran some two-tailed t-tests. After I viewed the significant poll books regression, I then wanted to look at each of the variables and if they had a relationship together. So in the far right column of this chart, you can see that both of the CBIS data and then just the poll books data was focused on because it was a significant regression. And you can see that these variables do have a relationship. And like Ibsira explained with the lower and upper than 0, that's why those asterisks are there. So they are very small numbers. After the t-tests, I ran a k-means regression, and this shows that there is a relationship between CBIS scores and training. So as you can see, and I'll talk about this more in my recommendations, but device securement is something that should be strongly focused on in the next time that if data is collected using this model. It affects all of them except updating. I found that updating didn't have too much of an effect on any of the data types that I ran, but the device securement is something that should be focused on because it does, if a poll worker is going to score high on device securement, they're going to score high on the quizzes. So after my analysis, I recommend that retired workers should be placed in the scanning unit. This will raise the scanning unit scores because retired workers seem to score the highest across the board on all of the quizzes. And I also believe that more data should be collected in upcoming elections. Like I said before, there wasn't too much time to collect this data. So if it's sending the surveys out earlier or getting more access to more poll workers in different counties, I think that there's definitely more work to be done with this and more results can be shown with a bigger data set. I can conclude that the money and time that was spent on poll worker training shows that election security has strengthened. So with continued training, cyber, physical, and insider threats and risks can continue to be reduced and mitigated. I do think that there is a big investment when it comes to training in any field, and there was definitely a return on that. So obviously this was more in the election security field as well, but it does relate to supply chain as most projects do. Having the poll workers complete a motivational survey, training, and then knowledge-based quizzes was a successful model. That's something that we were able to find throughout this research. And I think that that model can be applied in almost any training setting. So whether that's corporate training or warehouse training or any volunteer situations, I was actually thinking after Rami's presentation, even COVID volunteers who are volunteering to give the vaccine, like they need some sort of training and then they can be quizzed to make sure that there's no mistakes, and that can increase volunteers if they are confident that they're going to be, trained properly. So I think that this could really improve the supply chain and efficiency of training as a whole in many, many fields. Here are my references, and I would like to thank Dr. Scala and Dr. Dellinger for your help and strong mentorship through this whole year and this capstone project.
Questions?
Questions?
Yeah, so Izzy, it was kind of hard to see some of your slides. I mean, when you moved it to the side and there was like the left side of your screen had like nothing going on. So if you could just kind of put some of those graphs back up and let them sit for a couple seconds,
Sure.
like the histograms and things, I think that'll be helpful for those maybe in full screen mode as well, and some of your data slides too, because it was hard. There we go. It's much easier to digest when we can see it in a full screen mode. So if you would like to move those up for a little bit, and then we will take questions for Izzy.
If anyone wants me to stop on any of them, just let me know.
Okay, easy. Yeah, that's it. It's very interesting stuff. Yeah, really, it's good to learn as well. Can you back? So some comments on your technical side. Okay, in this regression, just stay with this slide. This is a regression result, right? Summary of a regression results. And what's your deepening variable for this regression?
So that would be the quiz score.
Quiz score for a particular question for overall quiz.
So it would be like for this specific regression, it would be the poll workers poll book score. So I believe it was out of 13, if I'm not correct. Let me see. No, it was out of 15. So it would have been their score out of 15, and then the other variables are their scores on the CBIS survey. Yes.
Yeah, typically when you're reported regressions, you have a complete table. So you show how many observations, dependent variable, you show the regression coefficient, then you put the error turn, then value, you can see that. Then also the model significance level something. Just if you just highlight this for your purpose, for today's presentation may be fine, but just say we report a regression models, it needs to be in its entirety so that people will have more confidence about to what extent we trust results for this regression.
Okay. Thank you.
And can you move back for a couple of, yes, here, yes, variable two-tailed test, variable 1 versus a variable 2. When you, 1 or 2 doesn't matter, right? Just the first set and versus compare. It's just a kind of pairwise comparison, device securement score versus the password generation score. So the purpose, what is the purpose of comparing the scores? Looks like you have any complete combinations of pairs here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So pairwise, this pairwise comparison. So what's the purpose?
So this was to show that there is a relationship between the different CBIS score variables. So if like a poll worker has strong device securement, a score on that CBIS, then they will do well in the password generation. And then when you look here, this also means that they'll do well in the scanning, provisional, and POLBA. So this was just predicting their CBIS or predicting their quiz scores using their CBIS data.
This one is a different purpose. Again, yeah, I will have a comment on this one as well. Can you go back to the previous one? Yeah. So
Yes.
we see the two-tail t-test is compare the difference, their mean difference. Okay. So basically, the score. The point is this: it's score for device securement. It's significantly different from password generation score. Basically, that answers that type of question. So here, so now you see your 0 significant. That means they are significantly different. Is that what you want it to be? Given the third column you provided, you see p-value, it's highly significant. That means that they are significant, different across all these pairs. Is that what you expect to say? To see?
Yes.
Okay. So then, when the scores differ, what does it mean?
For the on the quiz scores or this
Right, all the scores, because you list in the table reported. What does it mean? So when you want different, what does it mean that they differ? You want it to differ? Looks or what's the purpose for running this two-tailed test?
I think that yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm not really sure if I captured it correctly. I understand what you're saying.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay. I'm just saying when you have that, so the purpose, I see that when you run that, what is it? So it's different. Let's say previous one, right? And IPSRA, you can see show the difference across different states. We know the purpose of Maryland. We want to say Maryland differs from other states. There's a purpose, change the mean. But here you compare different. Different. I'm just saying that what is the purpose? I'm not saying you don't need to do that. I'm just saying I want as a viewer to see what is the purpose. So the next one, the next slide, the key means you want to establish certain correlation, right? This is about data mining. We EBTM, we have a course EBTM 350. We do teach kind of this stuff. The key means cluster analysis. Is that what you want to do? Cluster analysis or something? Or
yeah, I did use cluster
okay.
clustering groups, but I didn't run any correlation, so I didn't show any correlation, just patterns and relationships.
Okay. So the purpose to show that when poll work has a high score in what in certain things, they are more likely, like say device securement, right? They're more likely to have a high score on other things, or
yes.
Quiz score. Okay. So basically, you want the quiz score is a profile of poll workers, right? Is there knowledge level or training level or what? What does the quiz score mean here?
The quiz score is taken based on their knowledge from the training modules. So
scanning, provisional, POBOX are different modules, right?
Yes, those are all separate.
Okay. But in the top, you have a device securement. What does it mean? High. So survey results, right? Survey is a question.
Yes. So from the CBIS score, if they scored high on the device securement, then the data showed that the scanning quiz scores, provisional quiz scores, and poll book scores were all high.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think what's missing here, and we condensed it for the purposes of the presentation, but Izzy has like 30 pivot tables sitting behind her k-means showing what those relations are. So unfortunately, maybe we should have included one to help, alleviate or kind of explain what's happening here. But those were some of the patterns that she found in those pivot tables after running k-means. What are those potential patterns or connections in that data set?
Okay, all right.
Okay, other questions for Izzy? Okay. All right. Thank you, Izzy, very much. Appreciate that. We are down to our final presentation. So we are moving quite along. Bethlehem Jilchik